So Maersk is a shipping and logistics company, and historically sort of a little, you can say, conservative in the approach there. But we're really taking, you can say, started on a path of really being tech-driven and inducing, you can say, the data and the data science into the decisions that are being taken and into improving the way we run our business there here in Maersk. And then, of course, one thing also important, that's very key to my heart, at least very close to my heart, is the sustainability and the drive towards zero, basically. And could you share a bit about, you can say, sure. Your thoughts there from Flix?
I guess, funny enough, Maersk and Flix are not so different. People also tended to call us a bus company. And obviously, moving things around, self-loading goods or, just containers on your hand. I can totally understand the data perspective. And that's also something I think is very important for the sustainability aspect. Flix clearly stated in its ESG report, we want to convert our European fleet entirely to also come, to a zero from a carbon dioxide point of view. But that's only the one path of the journey. The other path is based on our core business model, and that's very close to data, by the way, because essentially we can only be successful, commercially successful, making good money when our load factor is very high. So very many people use our services. The buses are full, the trains are full. And you need to do two things. You need to pick the right routes, so you understand the demand, and that's quite a challenge of data. And then you have to optimize your supply against that. And with being active in more than 42 countries and having tens of millions people traveling in thousands of destinations, that becomes kind of an equation which is hard to solve by humans. And then machine learning components, parts of artificial intelligence make sure we have always the most efficient supply-demand match. And apparently that's not only good for the company in terms of economically, but that makes ecologically lots of sense, because then you have per capita, per head, so to say, the best carbon dioxide footprint. And that's what Flix drove from day one on. And now, becoming more of an adult company, you obviously also have to take the responsibility, as Maersk is doing for longer already, as you're older, really also converting kind of like the actual goods, in our case buses, for instance.
So it's very, very similar to what we do actually, right? Of course, the volumes are super, super big when you talk about moving containers from the warehouse or from the manufacturing to the warehouse, and getting all that flow, get the ships in the ports, and especially the utilization, right? I mean, it's key to be successful, on both money side of things, profit side of things, but also, of course,
Absolutely.
on the sustainability to drive that. As we are also using a metric on CO2 emissions per transport work, so that is, you can say, the nautical mile and the cargo that we're transporting.
Yeah.
So if you can boost the transport part of it, then it's super good for sustainability also. So
makes sense.
I think I read in your sustainability report you're also committed to the science-based target initiative there, and have you?
We thought, if we look at the core of science based on top of the United Nations, this is something which is kind of clear and based on data. And there are a bunch of other metrics systems you can comply with, eventually making you also looking a bit better. But we thought we take it serious, and therefore we really try to understand what our different areas and levels of emissions are. And eventually, if you look at the bus example I took, it may take a little longer than if you have some other magic metrics to look at, but we believe the UN-based SDBI targets were something which we feel right about and therefore committed to.
Well, same as we done here in Maersk. So really, you can say similar in many things there, so. Right? Committed to the science-based target initiative and net zero by 40, right? It's super ambitious with the 40 part there. Do you have a plan to get there, or?
It is ambitious, but things have to be ambitious. If not, people don't move.
Right.
And you also, if you talk about or think about regulatory and think about, what the past told us. We compensate quite a bit. That's been used heavily by our customers since day one already, almost. Compared to aviation and airline companies, much more. But obviously this is not enough, so you have to become real, and that only means exchanging buses, and obviously this is quite an invest, and it has to be both doable. Therefore, you can't come around and say like, well, in 2 years it's been done. For companies like Maersk and Flix, it's just too much of assets, too many. But also it has to be ambitious as well, and there is regulatory around that. We want to commit to, and not the complainers who always raise their hand and say, whoa, whoa, whoa. And I think it's also doable because buses run between 3 and 5 years, and we're committed also to the health of our partners who run the show together with us, and that means we continuously really start now to exchange the buses in Europe. We have with Scania, also a Nordics company, put LNG buses together, which are 80% better in emissions already. And we were anyhow the first ones to do EV buses, but it's you really have to figure out what fits best over that period of time as well, because it's not only about the vehicles, it's for us also about the infrastructure. It's charging, it's fueling infrastructure, and we're not there yet. In some countries more, in some countries less, but as an international company you really have to rely on the infrastructure.
You need to have a global angle to it, right?
Exactly.
So you are sort of in the exploration phase of what kind of technology.
Exactly. So I believe, over the last 12 to 18 months, EV turns to be, most promising. Also with the potential future for solid state batteries. And I'm not concerned at all to the switch of the fleet. I'm really looking at regulatory and particularly infrastructure, because that is going to be key over the next 10 years or so.
You can say from Maersk's side, we are, first of all, the lifetime of a ship is a bit longer than the buses, right? So we are talking 25 years.
Okay.
25 years, right? So that means that if we have a ship that we build and get delivered now, and we have an ambition in 2040. We basically need to do it now.
Yeah.
Hence, you can say the launch of Laura Maersk, and you can say the drive and the decision to basically make every ship that we order from 3 years ago and forward to be capable of running on a green fuel. Methanol could be done 3 years ago. It can be done today. So that was why we went on board methanol, right? But in principle, we are, you can say, agnostic to the fuel. We are also not sort of decided, this is the right path to go for methanol.
It's interesting.
And especially infrastructure is critical, right? You have these long voyages, you need a lot of bunker in specific ports and areas, and generating that infrastructure is key, right, to success of this, and the availability of the fuel.
I agree.
Might even be more difficult with the quantities and you can say the energy required for the ships than a charging network. You can say
a little bit different here, I guess, because you need actually more energy on point.
Yeah.
Potentially, we need more charging points all across, spread out, because more stops and stations. But the underlying electricity infrastructure has to just work.
Yeah.
Eventually, also in green and regenerative energy, because if not, it wouldn't make sense.
No. Yeah, and keeping, you can say that carbon credits going there.
Yeah.
So yeah. No, if we you can say think a little bit further and a little bit more into the future. Now we of course talked about, you can say, the assets and so on. So how do you sort of see the future of transportation changes? You mentioned also something on
besides the matter of fact that transportation has a huge stake in making sure we reduce emissions. We kind of have our fair share in protecting the environment. I think it stays around understanding the customer's needs And what we learned over the last years is, sustainable and affordable is important. So we really want to bring as many people to, mobility, to transportation as possible all across the world. And in order to do so, again, technology is key, because the ability to be, affordable is about being cost efficient. And that again comes to, understanding the supply and demand match, understanding what actually the necessities and the needs of the customers are, and having technology to connect the dots. It's not only the optimization I pointed towards, it's also trying to understand how to attract customers, and how to retain them ongoingly, and understanding their behavior.
Is there big, you can say, do you feel a big request from your customers to go green, to go, your buses are green, right? So maybe it's a...
So, as I said, if you look at the level of compensation they take, they're really into that. I also think they believe in choosing collective transportation. So, matter of fact, they're not alone in the car.
Say there's already a pre-filtering somehow.
So these customers already thought about choosing a bus or a train, and then the rest is again some of a matchmaking, because as long as infrastructure isn't there, and eventually not quite sure how it's for ships, EV buses are not at the same price point yet because they're lower in production. We're working together with partners like Daimler, for instance, to increase that. Then obviously there is a balance. Until then, you really have to understand what is the point until a customer buys into and does everything for green, and what maybe is the point if you reach the threshold where the general need for mobility is larger, and then they would just pick the cheapest price. So it's all a balance. And that is what I said in trying to understand the customers and giving them the needs, complying to our vision to bring green and smart mobility for everyone to experience the world, but also doing that as green as possible from, how we do it, from, the load factor, from not only the way we run our buses, whether it's biogas, LNG, or in the future EV, but also one of the reasons why we did start trains in Sweden, for instance, or also in Germany, because trains, you obviously have a higher range, it's faster, and you bring even more people into that, and that's something which works very well together with the buses.
As you can say, from our side, when we started the eco-delivery, our green product basically to sell that to customers. So you can say burning biofuel to transport, make the green transport of the container. Right? And it started small, and it's amazing how that have actually picked up. So from our side, we really feel you can say a drive from especially, you can say, some of the more, you can say, close to the customer clients like Nike or H&M or something like that. So really, to some, it's really, you can say, high on the agenda to go green there and so on.
Aside of the customer, as you mentioned that, and when we started talking about Web Summit, it's also important for our people. So they feel a certain purpose, and obviously we need the best talent. And if that matches, so if we walk the talk, and if the people working at Flix really have an understanding that it matters what they do, bringing good services to the customers and doing that in a very green and eco-friendly way, that helps us also to attract good talent.
It's also really something we've felt since the launch of our, you can say, the decarb strategy, and even when we tighten it to become even more ambitious and go for 2040, something people that are applying, that's something that they actually really mention, right? It's also something that drives me a lot, you can say, as a person, right?
I can second that, totally. Christian, thanks for having me at your great booth, and maybe I come back later for the Lego game.
Yeah, see if you
Pleasure
want. Yeah, great. Thanks, Doug.